What's up everyone, Blade here, and welcome back to another video of Persona 5 The Phantom X. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be going over future teams that are going to be coming out, and this is going to be for each element. Yes, I've been going ahead and writing down a lot of my things here. As a lot of you guys do know, I play TW all the time, seeing it is my main account here, and I've been doing a lot of looking recently into just trying to figure out all the future teams. So we're going to be going over each and every one for you guys, as well as their characters, or at least their teams, as well as their signature persona that you're going to be using for them. So obviously, if you guys are interested in this, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we're also going to be streaming later on today as well. So I'm going to get the stream probably started around 12 o'clock most likely. But this stream is going to be happening for a hot minute because we are also doing account reviews. So look forward to that. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. So this is going to be one of the few things that I got to say about this video. There are obviously going to be different formats that you can do for teams here. I'm going to be trying this as much as possible to really simplify as much as possible for each team here and a reasoning for it. Now, cool part about this is, luckily for a lot of you guys, the next team that's going to be coming up and actually ruling the land is going to be our man Makoto Yuki. Now, Makoto Yuki is a very interesting character. He's one of the few units that actually do have a ton of different teams that are very useful. And I'm going to actually go ahead and show you guys two teams that I believe is very much so worth using here. Now, the main team that's going to be the first one is obviously going to be his best team, I believe, in slot right now. And the other one is going to utilize a little bit of the earlier base team that you would probably end up using. Now, you can mix match both of these teams to make a little bit something better. When you start to learn the characters and such and so forth, it does help you out a lot. But of course, we're going to try and do all of this together. So for the first team that we're going to go over for Makoto Yuki himself, if you are a fire user or a person who really wants to invest in this character in the long run, there's obviously the best in slot team that will come later down the line. This best in slot team is the one I end up utilizing, giving you a little bit of sustainability, allowing you to take the most advantage over his entire kit while giving you the most of helpfulness out of the entire thing here, which is going to be Junpei, Mitsuru, and Ange. Now, the main DPS or the main persona that you're going to be using is Zalgogan here, in which is going to help you amplify a lot more of that fire damage that you do need here, which is going to be very, very helpful. Obviously, for your side pieces, you can easily use like characters such as Dionysus, which just gives you a lovely like crit buffer here. Or you can use something like maybe Vishnu if you want to get a little bit of a debuff off while also making it so they are actually more susceptible to critting, stuff like that. But for the signature persona, you are going to be using Zalgogan. Now, this is the future best in slot team, and this is the very final one that I know of so far here. But in the early base time, you're not going to really have this available. So when he comes out, and of course, when we get our other character being Yukari, who comes out, your team is going to look something like this here. So at first, when he first comes out, it's probably going to look something like, let's see, where is our Windvast here as well? It's probably going to look something like this, right? But once after a while, your team is then going to morph into the first legitimate team from Makoto Yuki, and that is going to have Windvast as well as Yukari. Now, this gives you the healing and as well the buffing side of things here, which is very helpful. She can build up his 30 bar quite a lot here. And this is pretty much going to be the main team that you're going to stick with for quite a while, at least until Junpei and Mitsuru comes out down the line. This team is insanely good itself. It does a lot of damage. You got your buffs there, taking advantage of crit damage, making sure they have a little bit crit damage taken, which is obviously going to be great for a lot of you guys. And then, of course, we have our heals whenever times get tough. But the cool thing about Makoto is his 30 bar is very short. So in the future, she is going to be out of this team. And that's only just because you really won't need her, because her 30 bar buildup is good, but it's a little bit too much for my man Makoto Yuki. Hence the reason why we end up in at least swapping her later down the line for maybe Mitsuru. And this is like their technical third best team here, or their second best team here when it gets updated. But as I said before, the first team that you guys are going to be looking forward to for the fire side is going to be this team here. And then in the long run, it's obviously going to change up to being the final team for Makoto Yuki, utilizing Junpei as well. So this is something to look forward to, and this is for my fire team lovers. Now, going to our next team that I would like to go ahead and go over here. This is going to be straight up in line with the C's characters being Akihiko. Now, Akihiko himself is not a bad character, right? He is actually a really good character himself, but he kind of got done dirty by the devs because when he came out, this was just before the great DPS spike. So I'm pretty sure he's going to get a buff in the future, of course, and that's going to make him very, very helpful. But it's still going to be one of those things that's kind of interesting to see in how to utilize it. So obviously, this character, much like Makoto Yuki, has multiple teams here, in which I'm going to be going over a few of these teams, more of the ones that I feel like are his best ones. So we're going to do 3 like we did for Makoto Yuki. So for his primary best team in slot here, the only problem with this is you do need to have a couple dupes on Blitz here to really take a good advantage here. In the future, best team hands down is going to be something like this here. We're going to go ahead and find our girl Blitz, which Blitz will need some dupes on her to actually fully take advantage of this here. And then on the last sideline would end up being Winvast. Now, I'm unsure if the twins could really work with him just yet. I don't think they really can. Same as Summer Marion. Usually you want to utilize her with a different team, but you probably could use her for this as well. But I would definitely say stick with something like this because this is going to be the main team that you're going to utilize. You have your pin, obviously, get the extra turn, taking advantage of more of that damage. She helps you with the knockdowns, making sure that anyone who is knocked down or with the effect that she applies, make sure he doubles that said damage on there, which is going to be fantastic as well. And you have the crit damage amp as well, which is going to be great. Now, this is going to go with this said dagger, and I forgot to show Makoto Yuki's dagger. You guys already are familiar with it, but his dagger is going to be this one here called the electromagnetic dagger itself. And then alongside of this for his persona, it wouldn't be like your normal ones. It's only going to be Thor. Thor actually ended up getting a buff a while ago here that was actually really good for him. And it also was really good for his passive. And it was a long while ago here. But this is a really good persona to actually use for a lightning based team here. So obviously you got your debuffer, you got your secondary buffer, your actual buffer, and then your DPS obviously taking the most advantage over this. This is the best team to really go with as long as you have a decent bit of dupes on Katayama herself. I'm unsure if now she can be used early in her dupe cycle to be still the best team, but I do remember when we were qualifying her as the best one here. Obviously, she had dupes because debuffers need a lot of dupes in order to really take advantage of their usage. And she actually can be a sub DPS when she's A6. But besides the point here, we're going to go over the next best team that I think a lot of you guys are going to end up using here. And this one actually is not going to have wind in it at all. Now, this is the one I ended up using when he first came out, which was with Yukari, because the thing about Akihiko is he has a very high 30 bar. So building up this set 30 bar is going to be very, very helpful. And Yukari helps out with building that up. Alongside of her here, seeing that we do need a lot of pin and we do need a little bit of extra oomph into some of our attacks here. And then we can also get downs off with this character fairly easy. You want to go ahead and use Turbo. Turbo is obviously helping you out with the downs, giving you like a lot of pin, helping you out with attack buffs and such and so forth. That is really going to be helpful. Plus, by then, this character is slowly going to be creeping her way to being a standard character, meaning a lot of you guys should be able to pull this character a lot more and take advantage over her. This is obviously a really good team to use as a secondary option. And I think a lot of people are really going to be running this team alongside with Ange being their navigator as per usual. Then lastly, the third team, instead of using Yukari, just in case you don't have her and you don't want her, you can easily replace this with a DPS. Now, once again, as I said before, not DPS, a supporter. Once again, as I said before, you could use Marion most likely, but I'm pretty sure people are going to use this with a different team, so there's no point. You usually could probably use the, the twins as well, because they do have a decent buff with the attack and stuff. But the one that you're really going to be utilizing is Wind Tempest once again. This is the team that a lot of you guys are probably going to end up using for this character, because many of us have already pulled Wind, many of us have already pulled Turbo. So obviously being able to have this team already ready means we don't have to pull for other characters besides, of course, Akihiko. Getting this done is obviously a good team to go ahead and do, and allows Akihiko to take the most advantage of his situation in hand. Now, if you didn't want to run a double buffer or anything like that in the future, you could use Koromaru because he has an electric type move, though I wouldn't really advise this one too much here because Koromaru is in a interesting spot. I think Blitz is still better than Koromaru fully, but I have not fully checked on that, so don't take my word for it, but I do know that Koromaru is a viable option. But with that out the way, let's go ahead and go into our next DPS, which is obviously going to be Barry. Now, Barry is my queen, okay? I love using this character. Every now and again, I decide just to swap my characters on over. And I think a lot of you guys are looking forward to this character as well, where she was one out without a doubt. I was like, listen, I'm A6 R6. This character is a little bit different. She has DOT, but her DOT can crit as well. And alongside of this, not only is it just critting, but it is a like hardcore burst down, which is very scary. Now, this is the first character that we saw do something like this here and that could just actively do it. But alongside of this here, the character herself, if you were able to kill someone with her said scythe on the first skill, she could pretty much just jump from character to character, obliterating anything in front of her, somewhat making her into a semi AoE character by chance if you're able to just one-shot certain things, which was freaking crazy. She also was one of the characters that came out with another mode as well called Double Berry if you got her A6, which was incredibly busted as well. The dagger she's going to end up using is going to be this bandaged up dagger right here. And then obviously for the persona that she's going to be bringing, it's going to be her own personalized persona, being this one here, being Vasuki. Now, Vasuki itself is very helpful for getting all these stacks and DOT damages. That is going to be great. It's not a damage bonus thing, but it is going to be a DOT increase, meaning she's going to hit even harder. Now, for the characters, this is where things changed on its head. Cord was starting to fade out, and then she immediately came back as her best in slot. This is her best in slot for any team you are using, and I mean any team you're using. Now, if you want it to really be like crazy and you had maybe like a bunch of dupes into your, what's it called? You're a Barry, you'd most likely still be using Anj here, but this is going to be with a specific team, being with this team here itself, which is going to have Winvast. Now, granted, once again, Winvast can be swapped out for Summer Marion. That's honestly up to you, but Winvast is more of the best in slot here for this, unless you put a lot of time into your Summer Marion, which I ended up getting like A1, which that's a decent bit of time into. So the best in slot technically would be Summer Marion because she does give the better crit damage stacks here. Alongside of this, she is able to actually proc a DOT damage boost from one of her items. So this is the best in slot team. Very powerful, insanely good, and this is what you will want to go ahead and do. Now, you can go ahead and change out Anj for the best in slot team for at least Futaba as well. It's honestly up to you to see which one you really want to go for. If you're looking for more of the crit side of things, obviously use Futaba. If you still want to get the extra turns for the extra damage, you could use Anj. I think for a best in slot team, it really doesn't matter. She can go with either one. Now, her other team that you can go ahead and use on the off chance you don't have Summer Marion or are not pulling for her, which is kind of psychotic, you would end up going ahead and placing in Winvast. This is the second best in slot team where the actual Navi is going to end up being Anj. Then for the third team itself here, it's just the same thing, but instead of using Anj, you would just go ahead and use Wind Tempest. I mean, you'll use Futaba, of course. This is very simplistic. Nothing really changes about her. All you need to know is highlight, 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 damage, damage, damage. So really good teams for this character herself. And God, she freaking is aesthetically looking awesome as well for her outfit and everything as well. Plus, she's a little bit of a psychopath. And you know what? I kind of like that. But either way, we're going to go ahead and just keep on moving. Now for our next DPS, which since we are on our curse one here, and we've already been going through a lot of these pretty quickly, we're going to slowly get to our ice one here. Now, our ice DPS is going to be S Puppet. Now, S Puppet herself, you can use Yusuke if he is A6. If you have an A6 R6 Yusuke, you are going to be able to hit harder than an A1 S Puppet. But, or at least I think it's like an A0 R0 S Puppet or something like that. But S Puppet is still one of the best characters to come out for the ice side of things. And it's pretty simple to understand why. Because right after Akihiko, as I said before, we had a major damage bonus increase for everything. S Puppet was the first character to really do this here. And she brought up the follow-up meta that was just her being able to slap the opponent back to back to back. Now, when she comes out, she's going to obviously bring this lovely dagger, being the glacial dagger itself, and then this lovely persona called Jeff the Landshark for me. But Jeff the Landshark himself is very, very powerful, helps out with a lot of attack-related stats themselves here. And for Puppet, much like the other characters, she can be used in a very interesting way. There's 3 teams in specific, and one of them, many of my Fox lovers will probably love themselves. But starting off with her best in slot team here, this is obviously going to have S Marion being our buffer, because S Marion is the #1 buffer in the entire game, and Turbo being at the side. By going ahead and using these two here, Turbo herself is able to give an additional turn, which are able to be as follow-up attacks, allowing for our S Puppet to not only get, of course, the penetration buff, but also take more advantage of her follow-up amount and damage output, which is always going to be great. And then, of course, if we're utilizing our Summer Marion, obviously she can do boosts with just crazy amount of DPS themselves, but then she has the obvious item aspect that she can make her deal even more damage with said items. So best in slot team is going to have something looking like this with Anj, of course, and this is the best in slot team. Now, you very well can change this if you don't have Summer Marion and you aren't pulling for her. As always, you can go straight for Winvast, and this is always a good team. This is our secondary best in slot that I think a lot of you guys are probably going to end up using. And then we have the Weird-esque team that has recently came out. Now, this isn't probably going to work on global off bat because we do not have the level 100, but you're going to end up using a double DPS team. Yes, you heard me right. It is a double DPS team, which is very, very unlikely to happen. And it does require you to somewhat to control this. And the reason why I say you have to somewhat control it is because you're using Fuka. Fuka herself is a very powerful Navi, but the problem is she requires you to utilize your brain and actually know your turn counts. The bot doesn't really do this in a good order way, so you do need to go ahead and actually play this character or play this team if you really want to use it. It's going to help you out with survivability, which Puppet does need that survivability. She's going to have the follow-up attacks, and Yusuke himself is going to even more so help out on this here, seeing that he has his counter, which will by proxy help out her with her follow-up damage as well, acting as more actions. Alongside of this here, if you have Koromaru in this slot, he's able to use an ice move that will further help out this entire team and pretty much just keep the enemy at bay, allowing for your ice team itself to deal a ton of damage. This is a pretty darn decent team here, but at the same time, once again, you have to use your brain here, and you're going to be using this quite often, especially if you're utilizing this said team. But with that out of the way, let's go to our next DPS here, which will not be an ice DPS. Oh, no. This is going to be a Noct team. Now, Noct team has not gotten a lot of shining in the future, or at least they never got a lot of shine time for a lot of this stuff here. And what I mean by this is because we don't really have many Noct characters. Well, Bui Prism ended up coming out, and she was one that I would like to say she's probably one of the more underrated DPSs. Like, we talked about her very heavily, and then she kind of faded out of existence, and she's not bad by any means. In fact, she has one of the more prettiest daggers as well that I love inside of this game, which I might show at the end of the video. But lovely freaking character. Didn't come with her own persona, so you just use like some regular type buffers such as Dionysus, stuff like that. Yanosik is really helpful as well if you want a single target debuff as well. But she didn't come with her own one, so I'm just going to put Dionysus in the front slot so you just know. Making sure she's getting the crit. For her actual best in slot Navi, this will always be Anj, because Anj just does everything. Extra damage, of course, pierce, a crit, you know, you name it, she got it. Of course, the extra turns are going to help you. And for her best in slot team, this one is a little bit weird, because I would like to say her best in slot team is going to require S Marion as well as Kirijo. Someone could probably tell me down below in the comment section if they believe it or not, but I've used this whenever, of course, we have a nuke amount for SOS. And as a person who usually stays in 8-star every stinking season, and also stays in 8-star every season, as well as stays in the top 100 or top 50 every season, I would definitely think that this is probably one of the better teams for her. And this is going to be with Marion Summer, obviously boosting up the damage you can do. and then Mitsuru. Reason for Mitsuru is because then you're able to put down a permanent single target debuff on the enemy while also getting follow-up attacks. Doing both of these here are obviously going to help out your overall damage amplification, which is going to be very, very good. Now, on the off chance that you don't have Mitsuru or you're not investing into Mitsuru, there's two other teams you could very well use, though one of them is very high investment. The high investment one is most likely going to have our girl Blitz on here, seeing that Blitz herself is very good. She helps out with the downing, she helps out with all that good stuff, meaning AoE attacks are your main deal. Well, Bui Prism herself, she benefits off of AoEs, and she pretty much can make her regular attacks into AoE damage as well, getting easy knockdowns. So Blitz does contribute directly to that. Only once again, reason why we don't really expect you to use Blitz is because she is heavily dupe investment heavy. But of course, you could very well still use her. On the off chance that you don't want to use that, you do have another choice for knockdowns, which is going to be Turbo. Once again, I think a lot of people are going to be using this if they don't want to summon for other characters as well. And this will be your go-to deal, because then you can go ahead and buff up your all-out attack, which also can be buffed with Marion herself, making Marion the best in slot. Now, this is where things start to get cloudy. I would only recommend Marion for this here, mainly because Marion gives the specific items for the knockdowns here, as well as an independent buff for AoE damage, which no other character can do. But if you're just looking for crit damage, obviously you could use Winvast. It's probably your next best thing, but we're really looking to keep that item. So S Marion is a guaranteed inside of this team. Now going into our next person, we're not going to make one for Mitsuru because she is a sub DPS. She's not a actual DPS with this one here. So her teams are very, very spliced. But next character we're looking at is going to be our man Luce Noct, or I think they came out with a different name for him here. And this is probably one of my favorite teammates, to say the least here. For the team, he has one that is really, really good that I love to use all the time. And that is going to be with my man Soy, as well as with our girl Summer Marion. Obviously, the reason that we're keeping at least Summer Marion and Soy together is because, of course, you're able to restore HP easier. You're also able to use different buffs that are very, very helpful. And she is the only buffer who can do this. Unlike Winvast, she can't really do any of that. This is no longer a substitute for this character. You pretty much have to have S Marion that do this here, because then you're able to proc off HP related items while also still giving you the crit damage items or crit damage buffs that you do need without utilizing the turn. Then, of course, with Soy Pioneer, which is going to be right next to our man Luce here, you're able to, of course, be a HP sponge, and he's able to, of course, just take away as much HP as he wants in order to buff himself, which is going to be very, very helpful. Luce or Shoiki himself also is benefiting from Anj, because then you can actually go ahead and use his skill 2, or I think it's called his skill 3. That will allow him to go ahead and get up his stacks to use his big boy move, which does millions upon millions of damage, breaking the damage cap a crazy amount when he first came out, and he still is doing it here. As for his main persona that you're going to be using, that is going to be Makoto. And then for the dagger that you're also going to be using here, that is going to be the Glimmer. And the reason that we're using the Glimmer is because a thing comes out that is going to be engraving that makes this specifically for him as well. But really good team, probably the best team that I would like to use. If you want to swap anyone in, it will once again be Blitz here, seeing that Blitz are going to benefit from the knockdowns, meaning he can deal way more damage on a knockdown opponent, which is going to be great for them to do. But once again, you're now missing an HP sponge, so you can no longer take that HP from said character, which would be Soy, and seeing that he is the only character that can act as an HP sponge. But this is another team that you can go ahead and use as a substitute. All right, so getting down to the last few teams that we have to cover today. I'm sorry that this is a longer video for you guys here. It's going to be Pinky, and then lastly, it's going to be our next character afterwards here. But if we go ahead and check this one out here, we have our girl Pinky. Now, Pinky is another character that is extremely strong that honestly, I don't know what the devs were doing. They just made her way too strong for her own good. And this character has a few different teams. Now, two of the teams, I'm just going to straight up outright say are the best teams immediately inside this game. It just depends on your mood here. So the first two teams, best in slot team, without a doubt to me, is going to have Mitsuru, as well as going to have Justine and Caroline. This allows you to, of course, get the lovely follow-ups of a debuffer from Mitsuru as well, get some extra damage, while also still giving yourself some supreme buffs coming from Justine and Caroline. Everyone probably summoned for this, so there's no need to do a substitute for this said build here. But if you wanted to substitute them out, which I wouldn't really recommend you to do because you're going to be missing a lot of buffs here, you could very well use Turbo or maybe S. Marion. But S. Marion's a little shaky there because I do remember that I don't think she fully properly works with this character herself. But this is the best in slot team. Now, if you want to use your brain, obviously, best in slot team, boom, this right here, and you would end up having a high invest blitz in the background because once again, anyone who gets down takes more damage. Obviously, having another sub DPS in here is also really good as well. So that would be extremely worth it as a person if you really want to do something crazy. But the weapon that she ends up having is going to be a Starry Compass because she gets an engravement on this as well. And then when it comes down to her, she doesn't have her own specific persona, but you could very well use Shiva or even Dionysus if you really want to go ahead and have a good persona alongside of it. Now, I also ended up using Makoto for this, but I don't think Makoto's really a good one to use for it. I just had special things that I could use on this, so it depends on you. Now, the other team that you can use is practically the same way. If you think you're getting rid of Justine and Caroline, you're not, because they're pretty much the best in slot unit for her. So don't even think about trying to get rid of them in this team. The X character that can be replaced in here is once again going to be Turbo, and it's just the same fashion as the last teams, where if we're going ahead and doing a best in slot situation, Fuka and Blitz are always going to be here at all times. This is if you're taking manual control, this is probably going to be your best team. But if you want to turn off your brain a little bit and sometimes get even more points, more damage, Anj, as long as she's pretty darn duped as well, will be the best in slot team here as well. So these are obvious teams for you guys that you can end up using. Technically, it was 4 teams, but since they pretty much use the same characters, I just decided to use it as kind of 2 different teams. But with that out of the way, Pinky is now done, and we can go into our last character. Now, I'm not doing Aegis for this one because I honestly don't know Aegis's team just yet, so y'all are gonna have to give me some time to kind of figure that out. And I think actually we're waiting on a character for her anyways, so yeah, you have to give me a chance. Now, for the newest closer, which is the anniversary closer, second Annie, gonna be a long time for you guys to come on out here. You need a bunch of different things, but the one thing I can say is there's 2 characters that you will never swap out: Fuka and Justine and Caroline. Yep, once again, they don't leave anywhere. Your best in slot buffer is usually going to, well, no, not Justine and Caroline. Wait, was it just, no, it was Cord. My bad, you guys. I'm over here tripping balls right now. It was Cord, because the reason for this is because this is where highlights came back extremely strong. Closer uses highlights like just candy. She needs those as much as possible to deal as much damage that she wants to deal. And then, of course, Fuka is here because at all times, she is going to be utilizing the dog. Yes, the dog here. And the main reason for this is because Koromaru himself has an electric move that is extremely powerful for this team itself. So Fuka, Koromaru always works. You usually want to take control of this team here. And this is going to be your main best in slot 3. As for this last part here, you have various different teams you can use. You can use Justine and Caroline for obvious attack buffs, crit buffs themselves here. That is very helpful. If you want something that's more fitted, I would say Marion. Summer Marion here is obviously the best in slot for this said team, and this is probably what you're going to go for. But the cool part about this is you can utilize multiple ones. Yep. If you have a highly invested Blitz, once again, she comes back like a sore thumb, like immediately, always comes back, having double debuffer. Technically, she's the sub DPS because technically you're using her as a 6 person here. But obviously, she does help out a lot for the damage itself because she does have an AoE defense reduction, which is really, really helpful. And of course, if she's downing, she gives you that extra damage. So I mean, like, that is really, really good here. But once again, we're looking mainly at those ones. That is going to be the best thing to really use here. And if you didn't know, you can also use a 4-star. this 4-star when it does come out. Of course, it's going to be Henri, in which Henri herself is very helpful because not only is she amplifying said damage between 2 units, but she's also making it so Motoha herself is able to deal even more damage with the amplification that she can do. Now with the team that we're going to have as well, she's going to use this lovely electric dagger, and then her primary persona is going to be Thor, which is also very powerful. But with all of this out of the way here, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please do slap that like button with your forehead. Consider subscribing if you are new. I do daily videos of P5X, and yeah, you heard me right, daily. We're gonna be trying our hardest to make our 3 uploads come on back here. So I'm trying to pre-record and get everything above every day, just to make sure you guys have something to watch. And tune in for our stream in about a good 2 hours. So look forward to it. This video probably will come out at 12, meaning, well, wait, 10, 11, 12. Probably come out at 1 o'clock, right? So it'll come out at 1, and then we're most likely going to be streaming at 2 o'clock. So I'm gonna push back some things and we'll get that on started. But till then, everybody, thank you for watching, and peace out.